You know, every single business out there, whether it's the corner cafe you love or a tech company that's changing the world, started with one critical choice. And I'm not talking about the name or the logo, I'm talking about the legal blueprint it's built on. Today, we're going to take that blueprint and explore it, piece by piece. So let's just jump right in with a big question. What do you think is the single most important decision you have to make before you even think about opening for business? Seriously, it's not your brilliant product idea or your clever marketing strategy. It's the legal structure you choose. It literally defines your risk, your potential for growth, and how you're going to operate for years.
So here's our roadmap for today, our entrepreneur's journey, if you will. We're going to start with the absolute basics, then walk through those early crucial decisions. After that, we'll see how businesses build a shield to protect themselves and grow. And finally, we'll check out some really cool alternative models that are out there.
Okay, first things first. Before you can build anything, you need to know the lay of the land, right? So before an entrepreneur can even pick a structure, they've got to understand what part of the economy they're playing in.
Basically, every economy is split into two big buckets. You've got the public sector, that's all the stuff owned and run by the government. Think essential services like healthcare or national defense. And then you have the private sector. This is where businesses are owned by private individuals, people like you and me. And that's exactly where our focus is going to be today.
And check this out. This gives you a really clear picture of a modern, developed economy like the UK's. Over 80% of all jobs are in what we call the tertiary and quaternary sectors. What does that mean in plain English? It means services and knowledge. We're talking about IT, finance, creative industries. That's the world most new businesses are born into today.
All right, so we've got the map. Now let's follow our entrepreneur as they take those first nail-biting steps. And really, the first big question is, am I going to do this by myself or do I need a team?
The most common, simplest way to get started is as a sole trader. You see this everywhere. Freelance designers, plumbers, personal trainers. It's just one person owning and running the whole show. But here's the most important word on this slide: unincorporated. Legally speaking, the business and the owner are exactly the same thing, and that has massive consequences.
And this right here is the biggest, scariest risk. If the business gets into debt and can't pay its bills, the creditors can come after the owner's personal stuff. We're talking your house, your car, your life savings. It is all on the line. This is called unlimited liability, and frankly, it's a terrifying thought for anyone starting out. So what if you don't want to fly solo? Well, you can form a partnership. It's a great way to bring in more people, more skills, and of course, more money. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? It's still unincorporated, which means in most cases, that terrifying unlimited liability still hangs over all the partners. So as a business gets bigger, that level of personal risk just becomes completely unsustainable. This brings our entrepreneur to a huge turning point. It's time to solve that liability problem for good. It is time to build a corporate shield.
Let's just state the problem as plainly as possible. When your business is unincorporated, you have no safety net. If the business goes under, it can take your entire personal financial life down with it. For a growing company, that's just a risk you can't afford to take.
So what's the solution? It's these two words: limited liability. And this is a total game changer. It creates a legal wall, a firewall, between the business and the owner. Your financial risk is now limited to whatever you've invested in the company. Your personal assets, they're safe. That is the shield we were talking about. So when you incorporate and form a limited company, you get this amazing trifecta of benefits. First, you get that shield of limited liability we just talked about. Your house is safe. Second, the company becomes its own legal person. It can sign contracts, own property, and even go to court, all in its own name. And third, you get continuity. If an owner dies, the company doesn't die with them, it just keeps on going. Okay, so our entrepreneur has built the shield. The business is now a limited company, it's safe, and it's growing. But now they hit a classic fork in the road. How do you fuel that next level of massive growth? And this decision really boils down to a choice between keeping control and raising a ton of cash. And here's the choice, laid out side by side. You can stay as a private limited company, an LTD, and sell shares to people you know, family, friends, investors you choose, which means you keep tight control. Or you can become a public limited company, a PLC, and sell shares to literally anyone on the stock exchange. That gives you access to enormous amounts of money, but you give up some of that control.
Let's break that down a bit more. Private companies, or LTDs, sell their shares, privately. They raise less money, but the original owners often stay firmly in charge.
Public companies, PLCs, can raise staggering amounts of cash through something called an initial public offering, or IPO. But then you get a separation between the owners, who are now thousands of scattered shareholders, and the professional managers who run the company day to day. And PLCs have to follow much stricter rules about sharing their financial info with the public.
And this isn't just theory. Take a look at this company from India, Century Metal Recycling. They were a private company that needed $100 million. Why? To pay off some debts and buy a bunch of new equipment. The only realistic way to raise that kind of cash was to go public with an IPO and become a public limited company. So we've pretty much followed the main highway, from a one-person idea all the way to a giant public corporation. But that's not the only way to build something successful. The world of business is full of all sorts of creative detours and alternative paths. So let's explore a few of those. You've definitely heard of the franchise model. Think of it like buying a business in a box or a starter pack. An entrepreneur, the franchisee, pays a fee to use a big, successful company's brand and their proven system. Think McDonald's or Subway. In return for that fee and some ongoing payments, they get a ready-made business plan, training, and marketing support. It dramatically lowers the risk of starting from scratch. But the options don't stop there. You've got cooperatives, which are democratically owned and run by their own members, giving everyone a voice and a share of the profits. You have joint ventures, where two separate companies team up on a specific project to share the costs and the expertise. And then you have social enterprises. These are fascinating. They run like a normal business to make money, but their main goal is to use those profits to solve social or environmental problems. So after that whole journey, from the solo dream to the global corporation and beyond, I want to leave you with one final thought. As the world keeps changing, what does the future of business actually look like? Is it going to be dominated by giant PLCs with their massive power to raise capital? Or are we going to see a shift towards more mission-driven models like social enterprises that focus on purpose as much as profit? The next chapter of that blueprint is still being written.